Hello, everyone, and welcome to the show today. My name is Catherine Hecht. I'm the executive director and your host of the Alexander Valley Film Society. And I said that backwards. I'm the ED of the Film Society, but I'm your host for Focus On, the show today. Happy Pride and welcome to the show. We've got an excellent lineup for us today. We're going to touch base with Beth Castle, who is the co-director of Warrior Women, the film that closed out our 2018 film festival. And we're also going to have a very exciting visit from Madonna Thunderhawk and Marcy Gilbert, two Native American activists who are not only the subjects of the film, but actively at work. And we're going to check in with them and see how everything is going there. So before we get started, we are live across multiple channels today. We're on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch. We'll be live for the next 35 minutes. And then after that, we'll be recorded. The recording will live on YouTube and Facebook. So without further ado, I'm going to bring in our main guest today, Beth Castle, co-director of AVFF 2018's Warrior Women. Beth, how are you?
I'm doing well. We've been training for the revolution our whole lives, and here's a chance. So from my attic in Ohio, I'm happy to be here.
Amazing. We had an opportunity to catch up before the show started, and I probably we could have just kept chatting. It's really good to see you again.
Yes, thank you.
And it's been last time we saw you, so you were with us at the festival in 2018, and there's just been one thing after another. And before we get to the work that you've been doing with the project, before beginning, middle, and currently, can you remind our viewers your PhD, your education, and how you came to this work in the first place?
Ooh, origin story time. Yeah, thank you. I guess it is important just because the film Warrior Women has come out of this sort of 20-year collaboration and ongoing movement that we've all been a part of. And just personally, it did start for me doing oral history interviews for my PhD. And I decided I wanted to do a PhD because I really wanted to learn these stories. I wanted to learn history that wasn't known. I didn't know enough to probably know better at the time, but these women really educated me very powerfully. So it was some 20 some years ago when I first met Madonna Thunderhawk, for example. But the PhD work is a PhD in history on women's activism in the Black Panther Party and the American Indian movement. And a very strange place to go do that is Cambridge University in England. This is sort of the birthplace of white supremacy, if you will, as a global phenomenon, at least in education. So it's been a wild journey since then. But I knew the first time I sat down to interview people that the story was not mine. I was just part of something bigger, and that people really needed to know this history. And now we're in a moment where I think globally a lot of people are going, there's a lot of history I don't know. So I told you so is one of them, but like, oh, everybody, welcome. Let's do this. So yeah, it's a big moment.
And sure. You were talking earlier about the shift, writing in your journal when you were 12 and making that shift into academia as it was a personal trajectory. You felt compelled to go into academia, and then that same compulsion, like it not being enough for you to go into film. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, I should definitely have a better performed, version of what I do and who I am. But the one thing I know is at the core of it is, world needs work and we need to make it better. And I wanted to find practical, concrete steps to do so. But I left where I was raised and went to school and created a major in race, gender, and media because I was really upset. And that was a big deal at that time because they were just like, I was all arrogant and young and was just like, I'm doing this no matter what. And that's the greatness of youth that you do need. But it led to having a fellowship to Cambridge. And then while I was doing my PhD, because of where I went to school, in Washington, D.C., and various connections, I had a chance to work for the President's Initiative on Race. Nobody probably knows about it because it got overtaken by the Lewinsky scandal. But it was such a huge opportunity, and it really blew my mind to see the absolute lack of knowledge about history, the most basic elements. And it sent me on a path where I was like, well, I'm clearly not going to be a good politician, but I would love to, going into academia with this idea of, I didn't know it at the time, but really disrupting the dominant narrative with people's history. And it's been, and then with filmmaking, I just knew when I first started doing interviews for the dissertation, I did them on film. I mean, a little standard definition camera. And the goal was just that I knew that the most impactful thing that I could do even then was make a film and get this knowledge out of the silo. So I've been working between spaces for a long time now. And I think it's just easier if you settle into that rather than think of yourself as lacking for not filling, one of these professional spaces. But media maker, scholar, activist, social change, Frankenstein. I can explain that later.
Well, listen, and not, this is my personal opinion, but I don't think this has to be performed. That part has to be performed. I think that it is incumbent upon people who are curious and hungry to make things better to know that there are questions, origin stories, and questions like this that need and deserve to be asked. I think it's a fascinating. Your own narrative is a fascinating addition to this work. Speaking of which, we talked about being a white woman in this work. And can you tell us a little bit about that experience for you?
Yeah. I mean, it may just be an in-group joke, but, at the end of the day, I'm not quite white. I'm very white in lots of ways, but we tease that I'm a fake white woman. And, just because there's a lot of fake Indians out there, a lot of fake Native people. I know all this sounds people can get riled up immediately, but here's what I mean is that, I've grown up primarily with my identity as a white person, but with a knowledge of my heritage and my family being mixed, right? Black and Native, but not in any cultural sense other than what I early on wanted to learn about history that I knew I didn't know. So, I definitely have a lot to say and to help people who are wanting to do work around anti-racism. The language changes quickly and often, but, our goal and intent for, living in a better state of equity and having a planet, all those things are connected to what I ended up doing for my entire life. So, yeah, I could go on about it. You'd have to ask me more specific questions, though, before I reveal.
Well, so let's segue a little bit into the project and how that shaped into what it is today. I know there's a ton going on. So do you want to start with how it started, or do you want to just break it down into the 4 pieces?
Well, what I'd like to share, I guess, in particular is, we were very grateful to screen at Alexander Valley with you, and the kind of concern that you're not just a festival, and the same way that the Warrior Women is not just a film. It's a movement around collaboratively produce history that's transformative. And so the Warrior Women Project has really existed since we very first started to work together, back in 1998, 2000. It really took form later on, sort of in about 2007, where we really started to do more oral history interviews. And that's part of what I want to be able to share about the Warrior Women Project, is that the film is a really important part of it. I co-directed it with Christina King, a Native filmmaker from Oklahoma. who's off doing amazing projects right now. And it takes a huge team to do these kind of things. But the part that makes us different in particular is that we're all equally and collaboratively involved in producing things. So the Warrior Women Project now is focused on 4 main areas. And we have different phrases that are sort of like the proposal phrases, but activist archiving is one of them. Fundamentally, we really, from the beginning, the oral history project includes at least 45 to 60, depending upon the structure of the interview, of all the original Native women activists of the Red Power movement. So this goes all across the country, Alcatraz, and I wrote a book about it. It's based on that. The book isn't published yet because we were too busy living it out through the film and all of these others, but it includes the Pacific Northwest fishing struggle, the birth of AIM, Wounded Knee, everything that happened after sort of the Wounded Knee 1973 takeover or occupation or siege, as it's called in various ways. And there's so much that happened afterwards that is a lot of what's in our film. So we really want to make these oral histories and these archives just completely accessible and engaged and used heavily. The same with the decolonizing curricula, which is the second area where we're really working to break down the sort of academic silo and also get more film work involved in creating a curricula of materials that doesn't exist that has to do with this history. And then impact media and our indigenous communities tour rounded out. And I'm happy to talk more about that, but also recognizing we don't have much time.
So I have number 1 is activist archiving.
Yep.
And then number 2 is the decolonizing curricula.
Decolonizing curricula. And so all of these are deeply interconnected. The third one is impact media. And the fourth one is the indigenous communities tour.
Okay.
So, yeah, they all play into each other. The archiving, which we have some early support from the Mellon Foundation, is helping us get all of these materials preserved and accessible, metadata created. I want them in the WorldCat globally researchable library system. So this is not, so it's the stories and the history is accountable to the people and the communities, but they have the potential of transforming how master narratives are written at the highest level. And that's, and I say highest level of just like in the hierarchy of power and privilege. And then, the decolonizing curricula is how we're going to make this accessible. And right now, everybody's looking for anti-racist education. So we're connecting in with that. The Indigenous Communities Tour is something that we are trying to build more support for because COVID hit and it changed the ability to have gatherings. And it's really important. We're conscious of that in Indian country. And then impact media is the thing that we're doing on the ground where, you can go to our website and we can talk about that at the end to see some of the work that we have been doing to cover all of the unfolding activism that's still ongoing and important. Primarily on Cheyenne River, where Madonna and Marcy live, but also in that we want to create more media that's collaboratively produced all through, even with credits, that we want to continue with.
Can you tell us a little bit more also about where, as I mentioned, we've had a couple of people ask how they can see the film?
So everybody needs to follow on the social media, all the different social media, and we'll get all that stuff out there. But also, go to our website, thewarriorwomenfilm.com. We have 2 different websites that are interrelated. But on that website, you can put in your email so that we can keep you directly informed if you don't like following social media. We are working on getting the film out in a number of ways. And the first one is in August. Keep an eye out for a Liberation film series that is not officially announced yet, but we're working on it. And it's a chance to learn from our elder activists of the movement period across the movement. So we're going to have other films involved with other activists of the 1970s. So you will have a chance, and that's going to be organized by Working Films and the Warrior Women Project. And so Warrior Women will be online and we'll be there afterwards to talk to you. We are also working on getting PBS to carry it again. And if you're interested in having it come to your community, and or any programmers, we're really trying to put pressure on that way, and you can contact me to see that through. And then we will have it streaming at some point, but right now building up for late July, early August for a major screening online. We want as many people to come to.
Excellent. And so we put up a couple of resources here while Beth was talking, warriorwomenimpact@gmail.com. If you've got any connections with programming at PBS, so on and so forth, that's how you could connect her. And Beth, can you tell us a little bit about, by the way, we should have led with this. Congratulations on the Peabody nomination. I mean, that's amazing. What does that mean for this project?
Well, you can't make a film about radical unknown history and not, it's not like suddenly everybody's going to go, oh, it's here, and let's, give it all the awards and celebrate it completely. People still are learning a literacy of how to view and understand, I think, films like ours. Absolutely. But with that, when we, the only thing, I mean, Emmys are nice, and other, Oscars and stuff, they're officially quite important, but the Peabody nomination was we're really proud of that, because that's like other people who care about social change and good filmmaking, good history, recognized us out of all of the films that are out there, and they had to unanimously decide, and so it really has brought more attention to us. I mean, we see the film as part of an ongoing movement. We're always producing more material. It's meant to bring you back to and look, critically deeper at issues, but we still want to keep the film, seen and engaged with. So the Peabody was it was a true honor, because it's the thing that matters to us, is that we're, doing work and recognized by folks who know what that means. So it was a big deal. Thank you for bringing that up.
Oh yeah, you're welcome. So happy and proud for all of you to even get that far, that kind of recognition. So Beth, what do you say? Do you think we should bring in these other two knuckleheads that are on the other side of the screen?
Yeah, we got to hear from the OGs and the OGG. So Madonna just turned 80, but she has embodied the original gangster granny her whole life. And Marcy actually is a grandmother whose grandkids are running around the room. But it's always we always need to hear from them what's happening on the ground. So
let's do it. And there they are. Wow. Welcome.
Hi. Hello.
Nice t-shirt, Marcy.
Yeah.
Got mine on. Yeah.
And can you turn up your volume on your side? Marcy, can you turn up the volume on your computer a little bit?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, I just need to get you closer to it. Live from the couch in Cheyenne River.
I don't think so. I think we're gonna have to just scoot it closer.
Yeah, closer is good. Well, while we're getting closer, I just want to tell you how moving it is to have you here. For me personally, it's amazing to have you here. And to the people who are watching today, this film was an absolute hit with our audiences, for film reasons and story reasons, and to be able to connect with the two of you, especially now during this really incredible time in our cultural history as a society, it's just amazing. So thank you for taking the time. Really appreciate it. And so here you are from the couch. Can you tell us a little bit about what's going on for you on the ground right now? I know things are busy.
Hello. Yeah, it's always, I like this part because it tells about what we're actually doing, okay? the rest of it was good because we get to be the audience, you know. And I love to hear Beth talk because she brings up details, you know, and that's really good. But yeah, right now, you know, with COVID and everything, it's you know, things supposedly have slowed down, but um, we call it Indian country. Nothing slows down. I mean, we're always in crisis. We don't need a COVID, you know, to define crisis for us. We're constantly in crisis. But anyway, what we're working at now, um, basically, are two things: the work that I've done in the past for children, and my concern about safety for children. Um, we're in partnership by our grandmothers group, Wash Agya Naji, Standing Strong Grandmothers of this reservation. We're working with this program, Simply Smiles, that come in the summer and do summer camps for children. They're all volunteers, of course. And we partnered with them to start a children's village. And Marcy can go more into detail about that, which has basically been kind of construction's been put on hold because of the virus situation. But also a result of a kind of a partner to that is we are working on starting a safe house.
It's like a safe house for young people.
Yeah, for young people, teenagers that need a place to go. Um, they decide. It's not by the court or anything. They want a safe place to go. They need some place to go, and they choose to come. So that we're finding out that due, you know, what's happening with our tribal court, etc., that there is this need because many of the there's no place for them to go. What were you saying about this past?
Oh, so one of we're working with a local tribal judge, and so she's involved with this. She's involved with the Simply Smiles Children's Home, and that facility is a licensed child placement agency. So that facility will take children that come through the Cheyenne River Sioux tribal court system, and they can be placed at this village. So what the other project we're working on is the safe house for young people. And what we're finding out by working with the tribal courts and the tribal judge is that there are young people that are choosing to leave their homes because they don't want to be in their homes, and they go to the judge and they ask her, can you put us in, you know, juvenile detention, or can I spend the night in the jail, or because there are no facilities available on the reservation for short-term emergency placement of children who need that kind of safety in emergency situations. And so one of the things that we're doing is we recently got access to an old building. It used to be a clinic, and it's been empty for about 2 or 3 years now. We finally got access to that, and so we're going to you know, refurbish it, try to get it all, you know, fixed up and operating so that we can house children in there. And these young people will not specifically come through the court system. And so this facility will not require state licensure. And so we're focusing on those young people who are making the choice to leave their homes themselves. They're making the choice. They want somewhere else to stay. So those are the ones that we're focusing on for this safe house.
Wow. And what about legislature around the tribal land? I know that Beth was telling me about a lawsuit that you've been working on with Trump's planned visit on July 4th.
Well, that's kind of pushing it all together.
Okay.
Actually, I was just saying, you know, there's all these other elements going on, but the national attention right now on the the tribe's lawsuit as in general, about,
Well, locally with our reservation, our tribal government has filed a lawsuit against us, against Trump, for trying to shut down our health checkpoints of the highways that come onto our reservation.
Yes.
That's what we're involved with locally.
Yes, thank you
Of
for
course,
clarifying.
yeah. So
Yeah, can you say more about
that's
that?
what we're doing.
Yeah, is there more you can tell us about that?
Well, not specifically the law case, but I just know that's what the tribe is doing, our legal department. But in the meantime, the health checkpoints are operating on all the highways that come into the reservation. And we have one like 10 miles down the road. And we are, as the grandmothers group, with the help of Warrior Women Project, we get food together and we take it down to them. We take them, uh, 2 or 3 times a week.
Yep.
When we can get it together, we take it down just to supplement the program the tribe does try to, have food for them whenever they can. But there's two. They have the day crew and the night crew. And because the federal government is giving the tribes in Indian country a hard time for COVID funding that the rest of the country gets, the tribe is, that's why we're helping as a community effort to help feed our checkpoint crew.
And as a result of the COVID-19 checkpoints at our borders, we're able to keep our cases down. I think as of this past week, we have 6 positive.
4 recovered.
And 4 have recovered. And I believe we have over 800 that tested. So we're people are being tested, but the positive cases are only at 6.
That's
and
great.
that's because our borders are being, we're turning, if you don't live here, and you have no business here, you can go around. And it's not that hard to do.
It really is so simple.
Yeah, exactly.
And
But see, we're getting flack from the governor of the state of South Dakota, Governor Noem, and she's been consistently putting out false information about, that we're stopping emergency vehicles and we're not letting commercial vehicles go through. She's putting out all this misinformation that somehow our protecting our borders is having a negative effect on the state of South Dakota. But that's totally not true. And the rest of a lot of the legislators in the state of South Dakota have admitted to that it's not true, and that she doesn't have the jurisdiction to say anything about us protecting our borders. So there's nothing she could do about it.
So she went to Trump.
So she went to Trump, and they visited our reservation a couple weeks ago twice, but there's nothing they can do about it. We have the right to protect our borders, and that's what we're doing. And as a result of that, we only have 6 positive cases among our people. And I believe there's 8,000 people on our reservation, Indian and non. So
how much of it seems like the spreading of misinformation is part of one of our biggest issues. Is that, Beth, is that true? It seems like the misinformation and the talking.
Well, people.
Go ahead, Marcy.
Part of that is people don't know what's going on in Indian country. They're not keeping up. If you're not reading the Indian newspapers or listening to Native America Calling or other media that's based in Indian country, then of course you're not going to know what's going on.
Right.
If you're listening to people like Governor Noem or President Trump or anybody like that, you're going to get misinformation, and that's just common in now because of Trump. It's all over the country. So it isn't like it's just here in Indian country. It's everywhere right now.
Right.
Well, I would just add too that that's one of the reasons why we're trying to do, or we're working, even though we can't do it all, but like the Warrior Women Project Impact Media, we're getting on the ground, like we're recording and at least showing the kind of things that are being done at a very grassroots level, and definitely trying to push people towards, this is if you do the social media, so that they can follow, the multiple newspaper sources that are available, that are focused on Indian country. It's just the lack of information and knowledge is severe. We have the huge division in the country where you literally have a Fox News side and the rest of the country that's massive. It's just this stuff, it gets deadly when you get to Indian country when these kind of things are at stake. So, it's about these bigger issues of sovereignty and corporate control. So they're shaking it up in a big way. And that's why we want to continue to try to push people towards what we put out with Warrior Women Project, but also all the other sources that you got to look for. Because, media is always media. Go ahead, Marcy.
I do want to share also that the COVID-19 checkpoints that are on our borders is also having effect on the human trafficking.
Yeah.
Our grandmother's group is also involved in some work with the MMIW on our reservation. And because we're so close to man camps that are being built on our western border and our southern border, very close to those borders, 2 huge man camps that are being constructed as we speak. So the KXL pipeline is an issue for us. And so human trafficking is an issue for us. And so another benefit of having these checkpoints is that's having it, it's having effect on the human trafficking that goes through Highway 212, which is a very heavily traveled highway through the state of South Dakota, especially coming up for the Sturgis Bike Rally, which is held in the Black Hills, which is about 3 hours from here. And that bike rally is known to be the center of human trafficking in the state of South Dakota. We have more federally prosecuted human traffickers during that time when Sturgis Bike Rally is going on. And the majority of people trafficked nationally is Native women. And so these checkpoints are not only protecting us from disease, but they're also protecting our women and children from the traffickers that come through our reservation and steal our women and children. So and that's Marcy, another benefit.
What is a man camp? Can you explain that for our viewers? When you say man camp,
a man camp are the instant housing units that prop up with all the construction workers that build the pipelines. And the KXL pipeline is coming within 2 or 3 miles of our southwestern border. And so there's 2 man camps that are being built, like I said, on the western side of our border, about, 20, 30 miles west of our border, and then the southern, probably about 60 miles south of our southern border. So we're looking at probably 2,000 or 3,000 men that are going to invade this area. And it's no secret that these men are usually transient, they're criminal, they're junkies. Not only do they traffic humans, but they traffic drugs. And so we're talking about some serious issues with human trafficking, and it's not just a concern for our people. The border towns around our borders, some of them are also really looking at how this is going to affect their communities, because it's not just happening to Native women in the state of South Dakota. We have the largest number, but it's also happening to white women in our border towns. So it is an issue, and it's not just a Native issue in South Dakota.
So yeah, it's really a scary, scary issue. But the bottom line is, what's that? Anyway, the bottom line is that South Dakota is a Republican state. So we have to. We're up against the state government of South Dakota wanting to open up our borders. So it isn't that we have to, ask for help, or we have to be so concerned that we can protect our population. I mean, we're proactive on it, but for the health of our people, and you name it. But the state of South Dakota doesn't care. It's Republican. They want to have a big gathering at the 4th of July for Trump,
Right?
Who's going to bring in, hundreds of out-of-state people, and they're going to all be Republicans who want the freedom to carry disease and not wear a mask. And they want us to open our borders. It ain't going to happen, But that's what we're up against every day. It's not just an isolated happening here and there. We're up against the state of South Dakota, and we have been since, Battle of Little Bighorn when Custer got it.
Can we talk a little bit about? We have people asking, how they can help, and we're gonna actually direct people to a couple of different websites. But can you talk to us a little bit about allyship and what that means to you?
Absolutely. I've seen the power of allies at Standing Rock. It was such a beautiful, beautiful place to be because the world supported us. And I mean, that was, I've seen it growing up within the movement. I learned young what it means to have allies. And so I understand how important our allies are. So, but to see it in action, the way we saw it at Standing Rock was just amazing. And so I think that the thing that united us was that we had one common desire or one common care. And we all care about water. We all care about the earth. And so we have to depend on each other because our lives depend on it. The earth depends on it. And without the earth, we're out of here. If we don't take care of the earth, we're done.
Yeah.
So I think, it's more than just being like, it's because we love life. All of us. No matter what state we're in, whatever state of mind, whatever state of being that we are in, we love life. And that's what it comes down to. And so anybody who has that in common, of course, there are allies, which means we're all allies.
Right.
Mm-hmm. So, I mean, we want to live.
Marcy, I just want to tell you that I think part of what is so powerful about where you're bringing the film is you sharing your story, growing up, your mother's story. I mean, I really appreciate that part, Beth, of being compelled into storytelling is a way of further bridging the gap of history, oral history, knowledge, activism. It just makes sense because it makes it so much more accessible. I can relate to you in a film without ever having to meet you in person or visit the reservation, but hear your story. And there's so much that you and I have in common that it compels me to want to be an ally in that way. So thank you again for sharing yourselves that way. And is there, I'm mindful of our time here, but anything that we could, are there actions that you could encourage our viewers today to take, Madonna and Marcy specifically, maybe that aren't going to a website and donating or buying a mask? Is there, what would you suggest to our viewers today by way of getting and staying active in their own communities?
Two things come to mind for me. One is educate yourself about the true history of this country. And secondly, get everybody and their dog out to vote.
I'm writing these down. Madonna, anything?
Once you do that, then you will be issue oriented. You won't need to look for a struggle. Once you do those two things, it'll be automatic.
There you go. Yeah. Put that up. Yeah, power. Wow. Beth, and do you, Beth, do you want to now let's visit those websites that we put together, so people have some place where they can directly support the work of this community. Where should we start? You want to talk about the Warrior Women, the shop, the Masks for Matriarchy?
Yeah, I mean, I really like, obviously, you know, our hive mind, because I had a really fancy way of like, you must unlearn. It's like educate yourself. And we're doing the work for you. You know, like, I mean, that's the thing I guess I want to say about allyship too, is that, you know, somebody has to play a tiny violin for white folks who are going, nobody told me. You know, it's like a moment of global sort of shock that, you know, and I do a lot of that other work of like trying to help people understand what the mission is and like why history is so critical. You know, it's the whole story, and it's really powerful. So educating yourself, unlearning so that you can then listen and learn anew, right? You got to unlearn. And that's a really hard thing to do because that's not how our culture works. But you know, I think everybody wants a better world and a different world, because this one is kind of, you know, going to shit really fast. So, and yeah, I mean, voting. I mean, that's the thing too. Is it like, you know, these women, other women, just the whole movement period of the 70s was an incredibly powerful, you know, statement of bringing down these systems. Totally willing to take anyone on, because that's what you do when you're fighting for your family and your kids, right? It's like,
right.
Get out of your own way. But voting, you know, you never would have thought a lot of these, like, you know, Panther Party members or maybe Aimster gangsters were going to say voting is the way, but it is the single most important thing we can do right now to shift while we're doing all the other things. So in the meantime, you know, we will always take money out of your pockets to, you know, the revolution in other ways. And that's why we, you know, are showing off our T-shirts. So we have a shop where you can buy various things. You've got handmade soap, lotion, bumper stickers, buttons, T-shirts, and then our Masks for Matriarchy initiative is recent, and we're really starting to help a lot of different folks. You buy $25 worth of stuff and you get a free double filtered mask made by my mother, who is a seamstress. And we're trying to get that out there so that we stop embarrassing America by not believing science or whatever crap that goes on with people not wearing masks, and realizing that that's also what community is. You are in fact weaponizing this disease, and it's very smallpox-esque, and that we're not going to let that happen again. Not now. And So the other part is the things that I was talking about at the beginning. We have this like 4-part initiative. And as you can see, all of it's important. You got to have media that's informed to tell people what's going on. You don't have to wait for other people to tell you how to take action. Just use your common sense and do what's local immediately. But if you want to support us by donating, you can make a nonprofit, we have a fiscal sponsor. You can make a donation at warriorwomen.org/donate. And we use that money to further the things that we are actively doing now to tell this radical transformative history and to keep these women going, keep all of us going. And, when in doubt, follow the leadership of Indigenous women or women of color who are going to, save the planet for us, even if the rest of the world doesn't deserve it. You do.
Yay.
You
Yeah.
I just had to trash talk a little bit. I'm really tired of being very, buttoned up where I'm like, oh, let me explain to you this basic human relations.
I know. I hear you on all fronts, and I feel like one of the things that I want to end with is, we'll do a lightning round on our way out. But is there anything that you would like to say to somebody who's feeling vulnerable and alone and looking at let's say they're in the middle of Ohio, right? And they're vulnerable and alone, and they feel like they may not know how to find their community and to start to activate and mobilize friends and loved ones around these kinds of issues. Is there anything kind or inspirational that you would offer up to help them move forward that way?
So not a smackdown,
No, it can be a smackdown, but let's to be doing the right thing.
I mean, I think it's important. This is a problem with a lot of white folks who don't have good relationships with their family, or they just we don't talk about politics because half the family is engaged in death politics of extreme white supremacy. But I would say that it seems really grim to a lot of people who have not had to live in crisis, who are basically looking for the first time at ways in which we're all participating in a society built on the original sins of genocide and slavery. And, you're never going to move past that until you recognize it, learn about it, and then do something systemically to change it. All that said, the whole point is to move forward and think that, like a lot of people, sorry, I got some feedback. It's darkest before, the dawn, in terms of we're now at the most powerful moment that we've had in recent human history to make this type of change, and that everybody has to be a part of it. There is a place for you. We do need you. You do matter. And there's a lot of little ways, and just because you need to stay in your house, which a lot of you do, there's a lot of things that are opening up online. And I know there's sometimes problems accessing the internet, but if you can connect, there's hierarchies are breaking down. You can connect with people you couldn't connect with before. And reach out. The only thing I've discovered recently is half the time folks are just remarkably afraid to do it. And then one person steps out and other people will follow. At least that's a lot of the stuff that I've learned from these amazing women who changed things in the 70s.
Anything to add, Madonna, Marcy?
I would like to add that
We just got a donation.
Wherever you can, whenever you can, try to find time to spend with nature. One of the things that I find is when confusion sets in, because this is a very confusing, scary time, the natural world always knows what to do. And so because we're part of that, we can connect to that. So however you can find time to be with yourself and nature, you'll find a lot of answers there.
That's great. I think that's a great way to end. So on our way out, I have a couple of silly questions for you. Madonna Thunderhawk, coffee or tea?
What'd you say?
Coffee or tea?
Coffee or tea?
Oh, tea? Are you kidding?
It's tea.
Tea, iced tea. Dead of winter, I gotta have iced tea.
Marcy, what about you? Coffee or tea?
Tea.
Tea. And Beth?
Simply because I cannot stand the smell of coffee.
Really? Okay.
Not a coffee drinker.
I'm like, this is coffee. Coffee or a good smack in the face. It's really just about the drug. I don't know why smacking is something I feel like talking about, but yeah.
I like coffee too.
It all works. Well, listen, I just wanted to thank you all again for taking the time to come out here. I mean, obviously, there's already been a donation, right, Beth?
Yeah, I'm watching my phone. I'm like, ding. Thank you. Thank you.
It's awesome. So, yeah, if you didn't know already, our platform is your platform, and however we can help promote the film, we definitely will. And I wish all of you good health and stay safe and strong-hearted. Thank you so much for spending your time with us today. I really appreciate it.
Thanks, Catherine.
Thank you, Catherine. Thank you for the opportunity.
You're welcome. Appreciate it. You're welcome. All right. So thanks, everyone. And as we finish up today, I'd say that was another good conversation on this side. So next week, we'll be taking off for the 4th of July weekend. And then the week after that, we're going to be back with Tom Shepard, who is the director of Unsettled, the documentary that won the Audience Award for Best Documentary at this past year's Film Festival 2019, which seems about 10 years ago. But until then, stay safe, stay connected, and we'll see you at the movies. Thanks so much.